Hey, everybody, welcome to the Reverend and Reprobate live at 5 at
that's not true.
5:25.
Yeah.
Welcome. Today we have two very special guests on here, Nathan the Jesse and Ricky Pope from the Christian Nerds Unite podcast.
Yeah.
Nathan Jesse, of course, famously
BB Nate.
From Tatooine Sons.
Yeah.
I believe
BB Nate.
Is that correct?
Hey, Nate, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Oh, yeah, that really worked out well
Tide.
for them on Championship.
Bulldogs. Yeah.
So
I'm not a college football guy, so whoever you want to root for is fine with me.
I'm not either. I don't care.
Okay, so
I texted your dad that night, said, "Go Dogs."
Oh, nice. So quickly, Nathan Jesse.
Yes.
How's your shoulder arm thing?
It is hurting. That's a good way
Yeah?
of putting it. It is still hurting. Went to the doctor, no breaks or fractures or anything, so that's a blessing. But it's most likely something with the soft tissue. Maybe just a strain, might have damaged some muscle, but overall, not a good thing that happened. But it could be worse. And so,
Well, you're young and buff, so you got plenty of muscle to spare.
one of those is true. The young part.
Well, that's one of those things that happens to young people is injuries.
Yeah, they still happen.
Okay, so here's the thing:
They still happen when you get old.
He get injured playing sports. I get injured going to the
Yes.
fridge.
Yeah, I injured my hand falling down on ice into a holly bush.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Great.
it was really good. It's like it happened in slow motion too. Isn't that how you find that all your injuries happen these days? Is like you see it coming, you're like,
and all of them
man.
are dumb. Like I used to get hurt, and it was awesome. Where I'd be like, "Oh, that was cool." Now it's like I cannot believe that I burnt my hand.
Trying to light the grill.
Yeah, spraying lighter fluid into a
Chimenea.
a chimenea, and then lighting it with a hand lighter, and
Oh, yeah, it was fun.
like a second-degree burn.
Yeah, it was great.
There's not cool stuff anymore. When you get
it feels
old.
cool.
It just hurts.
Yeah. So we brought you guys on the show because we have some interesting things that we want to talk about. Danley, take it away.
Today's episode
Tonight at Live at 5, we're going to be discussing primarily Nathan's predictions to go wrong on The Mandalorian.
Yep.
And what Ricky thinks of the new Batman prequel novel. And Danley has lost part of his thumb. What happened to your hand this time?
No, my thumb's fine.
Okay.
I cut the tip off several years ago and seared it with a butter knife in the grill instead of going to the doctor because I don't trust doctors.
I don't either. See,
Thank you,
But no.
Joe Rogan.
I burned. I took ivermectin for it.
All right. In all seriousness, I do want to start because Danley's a big Batman fan. I love Lego Batman. Ricky's into all things nerdy. Nathan, Jesse, feel free to spoil for us the Batman book that we aren't going to read.
you aren't going to read. Well, first I'm going to say you should read it if you have the time. It was a
I
fantastic-
appreciate that recommendation.
It's only 150 pages and it's YA, so it's a really fast read. But
YA.
Young adults.
Oh,
It's for youth
young
pastors.
I thought it was like a rapper's name or something. I'm not hip.
No.
Going by
A lot happened in the book, and a lot's different from what we normally know about Batman. We found out that Wayne Manor was sold when Bruce was 6 years old to become an orphanage. So they live in Wayne Tower, and that's why Wayne Terminus is a Batcave, because that is underneath Wayne Tower in this universe. Also, Edward Nashton, who is the Riddler in this universe, not
Enigma.
Not Enigma, it's Edward Nashton.
Enashton.
E-dash
Enash.
for sure.
It's like the Book of Enash.
Yeah.
In the Wayne orphanage as well. So
Also
he has
not
kind of
canon.
a hate for the Waynes and hate for all rich kids. That's kind of his motivation throughout the first half of the book, is just he hates kids that were handed everything to them in life, and so he wants to take them down, I guess is a good way of putting it. And so Bruce built the Batmobile when he was 17 years old from a really beaten up muscle car from the 70s.
Yeah, what kind of muscle car from the 70s? This is the part that I'm the most interested in.
They didn't describe, they just said a cool muscle car from the 70s.
I mean, does it look like from the trailer of the Batman? This looks. That's kind of what this one looks like.
It's a book, Danley. It looks like whatever you want it to look like. You use your imagination.
But the Batmobile that he built when he was 17 years old is the same one we see in the movie 10 years later.
So imagine if you read the book that's what it looks like.
Exactly.
I'm not going to read it. I'm going to have you read it and you tell me about it.
Well, you get a poster if you
Danley,
read
you
it.
should consider audiobooks.
Yes, they do have an audiobook
I've
version
tried
of this
that.
too.
Who reads it?
I'm not sure actually, but I know it's only about a 2.5 hour long audiobook.
What if it's Will Arnett?
If I was going to say, if it's not Will Arnett, I'm not interested. But if Will Arnett is reading that, and he's young Robert Pattinson saying, "I'm going to build myself a Batmobile out of this
I would love
cool muscle car from the 70s from some nondescript American manufacturer."
that. Would be great because he would be narrating everything, and he would do everyone's voice still as Batman.
Yeah, or BoJack Horseman. Okay,
Yeah, back on topic.
Back on topic.
Okay. So Batman lives under Wayne Tower. He
lives in Wayne Tower.
He's building a muscle car
Yes.
in his late tweens,
Mhm.
and Enigma, which is now E. Nashton,
Yep.
has a
got-
picture of him that he stole from the orphanage in bubble wrap that's set
Yeah.
where?
And he's got a chip on his shoulder about rich kids.
We don't know what he did with that picture, where the picture is, but he took it away from when he burned down Wayne Manor. Except it didn't get burnt down; it just got severely damaged, to where it's not habitable anymore. So that's kind of what Riddler's whole story before it, leading up to it, is he wants to start leaving riddles at crimes so that he knows that people know who did the crime. I guess
It's
is
a
a good way to
signature.
say it.
So I'm guessing he like burned this, but like he let the orphans out, right?
Yes, he did. He pulled the fire alarm before the fire, and then he set the fire to get everybody out so he could lay down all the gasoline and the bombs and
That's
everything.
nice.
Yeah.
And-
So he let out the orphans,
What a
but he
good
left
guy.
it. There was the owl court though. He burned the court of owls, correct?
Well, I don't know. Honestly, I
Okay.
think that we might be seeing the court in this movie. Everything's kind of pointing to it. So
Okay, so
Yeah.
explain to everybody the Court of Owls, because my understanding is that it works as sort of like the Supreme Court for Gotham, and that it's mainly controlled by very wise-looking aviaries.
yeah, well, okay, well, that would be awesome. They are the Supreme Court of Gotham. They live underground and decide everything, and have for generations. Ever since Gotham was created, they were created along with it, and basically decide everything that's going to happen in the city. And if they
So
decide
are these
that
people that dress up in owl suits like Batman dresses up like a bat?
yes, well, they dress up in normal fancy clothes and then just have a mask for an owl, but they have assassins named Talons that do dress up in full owl assassin costumes and stuff. They're really cool, but
Yeah, DC's
Um,
awesome.
DC is awesome.
I once
But
had a friend who named his son Talon, and his wife was explaining to us what his name was,
Stray.
and she was like, "No," she was like,
Talon.
"Yeah, we named our boy Talon. Call like the eagle claw." It's like, I know exactly what that is. Thank you.
Yeah, I know what it.
I'm sorry, Danley interrupted you.
I
So the Talons are the assassins from the Court of Owls, and the Court of Owls are sort of the unseedy underbelly of Gotham,
Yeah,
because they're not really
It's
gangsters.
the
There's no-
Illuminati of.
exactly. They're the Illuminati of this universe, and they're all rich people. They're all the wealthy people of Gotham. that
George
decide-
Soros is running.
But in the comic canon, Dick Grayson is an heir to the Talon throne, an heir to being one of the members of the courts. So I'm wondering if they'll that's how they're going to introduce Robin in this universe, if they're going to introduce him through the court in some certain way. So
Okay. So we think Robin is going to be an owl at first.
most likely.
This is really taking the trans agenda way too far.
It's trans species.
He's going to transform from a robin to an owl, and eventually to a Nightwing
I mean, an owl is definitely cooler.
than a robin.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless it's Christopher Robin and the owl. Then
Oh,
that's really that was a very helpful symbiotic.
Christopher Robin is cooler
Yeah,
than
Christopher
Owl.
Robin and then owl.
Let's rank the characters in Winnie the Pooh. Rabbit's at the bottom. Start at the bottom.
Okay,
sure.
Rabbit, Eeyore.
yeah, Nathan.
Piglet.
Nathan, you pick the next one. Piglet. Okay, after Piglet, who is there?
After Piglet, I don't know. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Tigger. That's just who I am. I think
blame
he's-
you.
No, Tigger's the
not-
best.
You think Tigger's the best because he interrupts
He
everybody?
bounces around, and
Okay,
Tiggers are a
so
wonderful thing.
Edward
Their
Nashma
tails are made of springs.
has burned down Wayne Orphanage / Manor. Alfred is serving as a Secret Service agent somewhere, understandably.
Oh no, he's still a butler, but he was a secret intelligence agent in Britain before he came over.
So Alfred just gets screwed every time.
But he actually chose to come over and be a butler because he was friends with Thomas Wayne. At least that's what we know from the comics before. That might not be that way in this universe, but that's what we can assume.
Okay.
But Alfred does know a lot of martial arts and has taught Bruce his whole life martial arts in a form called Bruce Jitsu,
which he hates.
Bruce hates that name.
He calls it Bruce Jitsu.
Calls it Bruce Jitsu.
That's kind of lame.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
come
it's
on.
super lame.
Alfred for you.
Alfred. That's,
I mean,
that's
look,
British humor for you.
How early on did he teach him Bruce Jitsu? Because I could see as a
Since he was
young
a little
child,
kid.
the what?
Since he was a little kid,
I can
right
see
after
that.
his parents died. Mhm.
That as a child, like if you're trying to sell something to a 4-year-old, you're like, I'm going to teach you Bruce Jitsu. It's a special thing. I could see them going, okay, I'll do it. Whereas if you say karate, no, karate's cool. A 4-year-old would like karate.
Alf Jitsu.
Yeah, Alf Jitsu.
Yeah.
That's taught by aliens with brown snouts.
Likes to eat
at the dinner
cats.
table.
Lots of cats involved.
Yes.
Nate, what do you think Batman thought the first time he saw Catwoman?
I don't know.
Like he sees
Meow.
Catwoman. See, I think he sees Catwoman and he goes like,
Meow.
oh gosh. I don't think it was a good thing. I don't think he was like, oh, she
definitely not.
looks, she looks cute or whatever. This is keeping it YA. I think it was a huge disaster when he saw Catwoman flip into his life. I think he was like, no, this is bad news for
That's a
Batman.
good way
He
to
calls himself the third person. I'm done.
It's great.
Okay, so Wayne Manor's burned down. Alfred is still a butler. We assume that Lucius Fox is working at Wayne Tower, right?
Wayne Enterprises, who is giving Bruce files. It's an unnamed employee in the book, but it's most likely Lucius Fox. So.
Okay. So Morgan Freeman is giving unnamed files to Edward Cullen. Meanwhile, Enigma Nashma is sleeping with a picture of Bruce and his family because he hates rich people.
Yes, that's a good way of putting
That's
it.
not creepy at all.
Right.
no.
Yeah. This doesn't sound at all like some of the Rev and Rep Investigate stuff that we've been researching about, like the most prolific serial killers in the world.
Yeah.
Right. We're
But
getting
that's DC.
Yeah,
They're all
so-
serial killers.
So we're just so you guys know, we're getting ready to do an interview with the daughter of the BTK killer, who is like
Wow.
one of the most prolific serial killers in the world. Like she didn't find out her dad was the BTK killer until she was an adult and he got arrested. Right. So it's a crazy story. But
I'm probably
this is
going to
the
ease
kind
up
of-
on the jokes on that interview.
Oh,
Get them all out now. So you don't-
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is the kind of weird stuff that she didn't know that
Yeah.
he did whenever he was like actually murdering people. So like there's a lot of this stuff that's in the darker side of comics. It's actually based on some of the creepy stuff. So
Spawn.
so
Spawn
what
is
happens?
super creepy.
Okay, cool story. So gosh. So tell us, what is the actual storyline? Because you've given us a lot of bits and pieces of like the background of what's going on.
He's giving
Like,
us bits and
is
pieces because
there-
we keep interrupting
It's
him.
your fault and you're not stopping. So is there something that like is actually driving this storyline where we're going to see Bruce and E. Nashma come together, or like is this basically like here's 150 pages worth of interesting facts about
Is it a graphic novel or
Bruce
is it
and
just
Edward
words?
Nigma?
It's a regular book. It's a novel. But there is a main storyline that does tie in a lot with the Batmobile. It mainly
that.
follows the street races that he did to test his Batmobile
Oh,
That's a great
nice.
idea.
faster. He always wore a disguise so that these kids that were his age doing these street races weren't like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne just trying to get some cheap thrills. He wanted to be pushed and he wanted to keep pushing himself further.
He goes by the
to-
name Dwayne Wayne during the
Dwayne.
he
Dwayne the Batman.
All about,
flips his
it's
shade down.
all about family. Except his is dead. So
Yes. I was surprised they did not mention that all that much in the book. I don't even know if they ever mentioned that his parents died. in the
Really?
book. Just kind
Because
of.
it seems like there's always like in every Batman story,
they
whether
always
it's
got to tell the story. Like, we
Yeah.
know.
like even like in what was it, Arkham Knight? Like I've played Origins, I've played Asylum, I've played City. Like, why do I need to relive Batman's parents dying again? This time from the point of view of
Same
Jason
with the
Todd, who wasn't even born when it happened.
Same with Superman movies. They always have Krypton blowing up. It's like, we know.
And we get it.
Well, that will not be happening in this movie. Thankfully, they decided that no origin story will be told in this movie. So
Batman takes some XK and then he gets after Enigma.
Just like Darth Vader. We don't need to know where he came from.
This is true. There's no point, really.
Yeah. Get rid of the prequels.
Yeah, but not the Clone Wars series because that was dope.
So Cade shows up.
I used the dope
trailer.
Okay. So
Spoiler.
No.
We're staying on Batman.
Yeah, let's focus on Batman. So it's
Batman.
the street races, and then if I remember right, because I listened to the Tatooine Sons podcast, which is why they're having me on Friday in order to look at stuff about the Mandalorian. Plug for that show and for Danley not being on it. So there's a car that blows up, and it's because Enigma hates Dwayne Wayne, who is Bruce Wayne in disguise. With flip down sunglasses, who races cars in an illegal Need for Speed circuit in the midst of Gotham.
Yes, that is a great way of putting it.
Flip down sunglasses, flip up jacket lapel.
Yep. And so he also kind of like wears this trench coat over the bat suit, and we see we read, we don't see any of it because there's no pictures. We read
there
about
are pictures actually. There's an 8-page color insert about a bunch of pictures of the new Batman movie coming out. So
are those 8 pages part of the 150 you pitched to us earlier?
They are part of the 150.
That's 142 page book.
Unless it's double-sided, and then it's more like 134.
Well, I don't know. I just thought they were cool. They were stuck in the weirdest place though.
It sounds cool.
Stuck in the middle of not even like between part 1 and part 2. They were just in there, and it just broke up the story completely. But it was interesting to see the little tidbits that they were giving about the Batman. But yes, Riddler and Bruce Wayne have been intertwined throughout their whole lives, kind of, without knowing it. And so
does the Riddler know it and Bruce not know it?
No, neither.
Or do they both not know it?
They both not know it.
All right. Well, that's a little more interesting to me.
He sounds like Hush a little bit.
He does. He gives me very Hush vibes. He
was Hush in the animated movie.
This is true.
Yeah.
He wasn't Elliot Hush. T.S. Eliot Hush.
Yeah.
Literary surgeon of Gotham turned killer. But that's not who he was. All right, so we're gonna start wrapping up here, and so in our wrap up, what we always do at the end of our shows is,
what do you think Batman first thought of when he saw the Joker?
We're going to pitch to you guys theories about what's going to happen in tomorrow's episode of The Mandalorian, and you have to tell us why it's not going to work. Okay, is everybody good with that? Everybody understands the premise here. All right,
got it.
Danley, go ahead and
which show? The Mandalorian.
Yeah, The Mandalorian. Or as it's called, the Book of Boba Fett. But let's be honest, the only good episodes were about Mando. Sorry, Sam.
Yoda will show up as Force Ghost in this one to help train Grogu, who apparently the whole last episode was really about. It was a Mandalorian episode,
right?
Which I loved. But
Yoda
Force Ghost in to train him in something that he needs.
Okay, Ricky, why is this not going to happen?
That is not going to happen because it's ridiculous. No, we've had too much force wielding Jedis already. I don't think we're going to add one more.
Okay, Nathan, Han and Chewie show up, and Chewie and Black Chrysanthemum team up in order to take out the Empire, which is controlled by the Pikes, or vice versa. Why isn't that going to happen?
You're just repeating the theory from my dad on the podcast today.
Yeah, this is extra shots fired at David.
I actually like this idea.
I do like this idea.
I mean, everybody over the age of 30 likes this idea, but that doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
No, I don't think.
I like the idea of the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl, but like, who cares? It's a cool idea.
But I really don't think this will happen, specifically because I don't think they could pull off all of that in one episode.
Okay.
And I don't think that it'll be possible for them to even bring in Chewie, let alone Han and Chewie, and then adding in, say, all these other characters, and then keeping it focused on Boba Fett, which they haven't done in the past 2 episodes, and they need to do that in this last one, or some backlash will happen from certain people. So I think
Nate is referring to Sam writing a strongly worded letter to both Dave Filoni and John Favreau. Misters Filoni and Favreau.
How dare you?
After having watched the last episode of The Mandalorian, aka the Book of Boba Fett, yeah, how long do you think Sam would leave the caps lock on if he was typing that email?
Very long. I don't think you understand how frustrated he was after episode 5. It was miserable to be around him at any point. I was talking with my dad when episode 6 came out, and I'm like, I hope there's some Boba Fett in this episode, because I do not think I can go another week with Sammy complaining that Mandalorian was the main character. Finally, though, he kind of reconciled with himself about it, but still, it was miserable.
Well, did episode 5, was that the one with the speeders where they had the colorful? Because that one, okay.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't the Vespa episode.
Yeah, I'm not going to derail us on this.
Yeah, the only thing that the Vespa episode was missing was like an Italian cafe that they all met at. Like we're meeting outside the water pumps. And it's like, no, you weren't. You're meeting on some like villa outside of Venice where you're all sipping tea on the canal. Yeah. Jerks. All right. So here is the actual theory that the Reverend and the Reprobate is going to throw out there. We've talked about this very in depth. I'm coming up with it right now. And we believe that this is what's going to happen.
I think the twins are going to show up.
The twins are definitely going to show up. Both of the twins.
And they're going to side attack the Mandalorian.
There we go. Thoughts? No, here. So I think Cad Bane is potentially working for the Empire because of what he was wearing underneath his jacket. You see some of the Imperial ranks that are on there. You actually see a couple of data tubes that are on the left-hand side. And so my thought is, my prediction that's sure to go wrong as we steal something that Jesse stole from us back. That's not ours. You're welcome. So what we think will actually happen is that Cad Bane is working with Thrawn.
Okay.
And that he is part of the Empire, and that this is how we bring. There was a brilliant podcast I was listening to where somebody compared Boba Fett to being like the Nick Fury of the Mandoverse, but I can't remember who
brings everyone. He's the catalyst that brings.
Yeah, he's kind of but he doesn't have an eye patch, and so I don't know that theory holds water. But it's interesting to say. Pure fan speculation. Thank you, giant friggin' robot, or wherever I heard that. So that was Nate's theory. So we're gonna see Thrawn come in because Thrawn is actually the one that's controlling the Pikes. We'll see Luke bring Grogu back because we know that Ben is the first Padawan of Luke Skywalker, right? So Grogu comes back, meets up with Mando. Then we see Ahsoka comes, and it's not Luke that brings Grogu back. It's Ahsoka that brings Grogu back, right? Because Luke has to stay.
Done with this kid.
Luke is done with this kid, and we are done with deep fakes. So we are out of there. Mark Hamill,
pretty good,
and his scars and his dead eyes and his whiny self can all just,
and his tweets.
Yeah,
just take his
Mark
tweets.
Hamill and his tweets can stay on Boring Island, and they're all there together with his robots
and his blue milk.
And so Ahsoka brings Grogu back to Tatooine. That's where she finds out where Thrawn is, because Thrawn is actually who's controlling the Pikes, and the Cad Bane's helping with their Black Chrysanthemum, Mandalorian, Baby Yoda, which is Grogu now, and then Ahsoka are actually the team that takes on the Pikes, because all of that.
Sabine in there,
huh?
Introduce Sabine.
Who's Sabine?
Oh, okay. Well, Sabine Wren.
One of the Mandalorians.
Throw her in there with Ahsoka.
The ones who keep taking their helmets off.
No, she's the one that's all like graffitis everything all the time in Rebels. I know who Sabine Wren is. She's an explosives expert. Cheese and rice, Stanley. Get with it.
Traveled with Ahsoka. They have already cast her in Ahsoka. So if we're going to be doing a team up, might as well throw her in there to introduce her to the live action universe. And they said a surprise cameo. So
see, all this is saying is that everything that I'm saying makes a lot of sense. Unless what the surprise cameo is that they deep faked Carrie Fisher going, somebody go save Tatooine. Help us, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It could be Obi-Wan.
He's dead.
I know. Force Ghost.
Force Ghost to Obi-Wan?
Yeah.
You're fired.
Says hello there.
Well, you could. The deep fake would be easy. You guys talking about Han Solo show as a possible show up. He could be delivering Grogu. It could be as simple as that.
Grogu?
I think if somebody's delivering
Grogu back.
I think if somebody's delivering Grogu, that it's Lando.
Ooh. Well,
because
do they
because
bring
you
back
could
Donald
use
Glover as Lando, or do they deep fake?
That's what I was about to ask.
well, because you could use Donald Glover's Lando because we know he is potentially going to show up in some new series, or you could use Billy D. Williams because he doesn't look like he's aged since they shot Return of the Jedi. So just give him a little Just for Men, and all of a sudden he's ready to go again.
Yes, do that.
Okay, last theory.
Okay, Nathan, Jesse, and Ricky Pope, tell our audience where it is that they can find you on social media. Ricky, you go first.
You can find all of our social links for Christian Nerds Unite at christiannerdsunite.com. Links to our links to our Facebook pages, our group, YouTube channel, and everything else.
All right. And this is usually Sam's job, so I'm gonna have to remember what he says.
You're doing great.
Podcast, but you can find us on Facebook and join the Tatooine Sons discussion group on there. You can follow us on Twitter to keep up with all the action. You can also find all of our socials and keep up to date on TatooineSons.com. SONS.
There you go. Danley, what's your last theory?
Roll Tide is gonna sweep everybody.
Nick Saban's gonna come in with a box full of spice and take over Tatooine.
Yeah, I don't
next
know.
on The Mandalorian.
Timothy Elephant is not dead.
Timothy Elephant?
Yeah.
Elephant. Timothy.
I'm doing your thing.
I need fan art of that now.
Timothy Elephant will be making his next appearance on the Lord of the Rings series.
Him and Black Chrysanthemum. How do you say his name? Chrysanthemum.
Sultan into this.
Oh my goodness.
It's like Chrysander, right?
This show is always a disaster, and I love it.
Is it Chrysanthemum?
Chris Stanton.
Chris Stanton. Yes, Chris Stanton. There you go. That'll work. That's close enough.